I would advise against counting the people's reaction to being any invasion from the U.S. as something positive due to the fact that it has not been very successful in the history of Latin America.
Well, staying with the US, the Treasury there has sanctioned 6 more ships carrying Venezuelan oil after seizing an oil tanker off the country's coast yesterday. The White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the US intends to seize the estimated 1.8 million barrels of heavy crude oil on the tanker, which was, quotes, known for carrying black market sanctioned oil. In response, the Venezuelan government has accused the US of international piracy and that the Trump administration's objective has always been to seize Venezuelan oil without paying compensation. Well, let's talk to Natalia Meneses, a journalist covering Latin America. Hello, Natalia.
Hello, Henry.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
No, it's good to see you as well, and good to hear you, more importantly. Can you explain how people are responding to this latest news, the US Treasury sanctioning 6 more ships off the back of the seizure of that tanker this week?
Well, the response has been very mixed, but for the most part, everybody agrees that this has been an act of piracy and as well as a direct message to Trump's politics regarding to Latin America.
Trump's politics regarding Latin America. In what way? Because there are some Latin American countries and leadership, like of El Salvador, of Argentina, that he rather likes.
Especially this vessel in particular had many destinations programmed. One of them was Cuba, and Cuba very needs the support from the Venezuelan oil to keep their aging infrastructure alive. So basically, this is an attack to also those allies that work with the Venezuelan government.
Right. Okay. So when it comes to regional unity, does President Maduro, does Venezuela have strong allies outside of Cuba? And if so, what might they do? How might they come to Venezuela's aid?
Well, Petro has given an official statement that he also agrees that this is an act of piracy and an act of trying to infringe in Latin American politics. So Colombia has been an ally against the Trump actions towards Venezuela. But Trump today, he said that Petro must be careful with his wordings because they also have drug trafficking problems and that they could be the next ones.
Could be the next ones. So what preparations are being made both in Venezuela and among its allies to withstand any possible, probably not a military invasion, but further pressure?
There hasn't been an official statement from any other countries, but Maduro did say today that they were prepared to fight back in case of a land invasion from the U.S. government.
Right. Well, there are some Venezuelans and some leaders who do approve of what Donald Trump is doing. And of course, the Nobel Prize winner and some say the real president of Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado, has says, look, this is an endorsement of me and my struggle, but also President Trump, and that she believes that Maduro should be driven from office and believes if force is necessary, then maybe so be it.
And importantly, she also stated the fact that to the people concerns about an U.S. invasion, she reminded everybody that Venezuela right now is also suffering a Russian invasion, an Iranian invasion, and any other allies to the Maduro regime.
Right. And so when it comes to the people of Venezuela, which hemorrhaged so many people, millions of people, many of them have left to go to other parts of the Americas. Some of them have got into the US, although their protective status has been revoked. Where do you think the centre of gravity is at the moment? If Trump managed to push Maduro out, and we've heard that there have been conversations between them in the last month, would they see that as liberation or appalling American interference?
I think it would be a very mixed pattern because many of the migrants have had to flee the Maduro regime in the U.S. Of course, they would wish to come back home, and this would be a symbol of freedom and a fight that they've been fighting for many, many years. However, I would advise against counting the people's reaction to being any invasion from the U.S. as something positive due to the fact that it has not been very successful in the history of Latin America.
Yes, you're quite right there. And when it comes to Maria Corina Machado, the Nobel laureate, she is now apparently considered a fugitive by the Maduro administration. What do you know of her plans? I mean, is she planning to come back to Venezuela, or is she planning to campaign for the overthrow of Maduro from outside?
No, she gave a statement quite firm today that she has all the plans to go back to Venezuela, knowing the risk that she takes, but she will continue the fight from inside Venezuela.
All right. Natalia Meneses, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Times Radio.
Is the campaign against Venezuela still just about drugs, or is it now also about oil?
Well, it's about a lot of things, but one of the things it's about is the fact that they've allowed millions of people to come into our country from their prisons, from gangs, from drug dealers, and from mental institutions, probably proportionately more than anybody else. They came in from many countries. We're getting them out. So it has to do with a lot of things. They've treated us badly, and I guess now we're not treating them so good. If you look at the drug traffic by sea is down 92%. And nobody can figure out who the 8% is, because I have no idea. Anybody getting involved in that right now is not doing well. And we'll start that on land, too. It's going to be starting on land pretty soon.
They just seized a ship. It is oil piracy. It is oil. In other words, they are showing why they are doing what they are doing. Oil, oil, and more oil. But oil is about to die as a driver of economic development for our peoples. So we have to think about another kind of development. What to do? We cannot have the same military power. We cannot have the same financial power. But we can have other kinds of power, and one of them starts here, joining forces.
Juntarnos. Que los ingleses, después de tratar de arrasar militarmente a México, que tiene una... Entonces estamos en un segundo escenario después de Gaza.
So, we are in the second scenario after Gaza, the Caribbean. 100 dead already, and it could be thousands if they unleash an invasion. They say I am defending a dictatorship, but what I defend and want to defend is life in the Caribbean and the humanity that lives there. We have dealt with dictatorships ourselves. We do not need much help to do that. When people decide to, they free themselves from dictators. And in the Caribbean, we have freed ourselves from many dictators.
Y sí que nos hemos liberado de dictadores en el Caribe.